Bava, Kamma, and good Gimel.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, good Gimel. If one recognizes his utensils or his books in another's possession, and a report of theft had gone forth in the city concerning him, the purchaser must sweat how much he paid, and he receives it. Otherwise, he does not avail. It does not avail him. For I say, he sold them to another, and this one purchased them from me. If this one came with his barrel of wine, and this one came with a jug of honey, and the jug of honey cracked, and this one spilled out his wine and saved the honey in it, he is entitled only to his wage. But if he said, I will save yours and you will pay me for mine, he is obligated to pay him. A river swept away his donkey and another's donkey, his being worth 100 zuz and the other's 200. And he left his and saved the others. He is entitled only to the wage. But if he said to him, I will save yours and you will pay me for mine, he is obligated to pay him.
Right. So just a little note on this. They seem to be identical cases where one person saved the other person's article at the expense of his own. But so why do we have to teach them both? Because one of them is an active destroying of his own property. When he throws out his own wine in order to save the honey, then that's only so you might have thought that because he actively broke it in order to save the other guy's honey, he would be more obligated to pay him back for it because look what he did for you. Kamash Malan, that if they don't do it tonight, then he's not obligated to pay. Okay, and conversely, why couldn't we just teach that case and not the donkey case? Because the donkey case was passive, we just left his one alone.
Right.
So in that case, it's to teach you that even if he you might have thought that okay, he passively left his donkey to drown, and even if he made a condition, he could have been sarcastic about it, and well then whatever, your donkey's gone anyway, so you might as well save mine.
Right.
So that's if they make the condition explicitly, then nonetheless he still has to pay. Also,
Yeah.
another little note about this is that the case of the honey can't be a case where the honey has spilled and is busy pouring out, or the thing is cracked and the honey is going to be lost, because that's a case of Zuta Shalyam. He's about to lose his honey anyway, so the honey automatically becomes hefker to anyone who could save it.
Right. Okay.
There must be a cracked jug that's in danger, and if the owner wanted to, he could save it. But since there's another guy with the wine over here, who could throw it out. It's not yet hefker. It has to be that sort of in between case where it's not yet lost.
Okay. All
Okay.
right.
Okay.
One who robs another of his field and tyrants take it. If it is a plague of the province, you may say to him, here is your property before you, but if it be because of the robber, he must provide him with another field. If a river inundated, he may say to him, here is your property before you. If one robs another
No,
of borrows,
okay, this is the new stuff today. Okay.
that
Mishna
was it.
Hagotelis Chavero. If somebody steals from his friend, or shilava him, or borrowed from him, or shifkid him, or his friend left something with him, so he owes him the object or money. Okay, but Yishuv, if he took it from him inside a city or inside a settlement, some other people live, lo yachzir lo b'midbar. Okay, you can't. Then it can't like be that they're going on a seal together, and while they're out in the midbar, the guy suddenly feels a little vulnerable and says, can I return that thing to you now? Here you go. You take it. And he says, and so the owner, to whom he owes it, is entitled to say, I don't want this now. You hang on to it until we get back to you, sure. Yeah, so he doesn't want to take the responsibility for it, and he's quite entitled to. And it's almanas that says midbar. However, if it was on condition that they were going to go out into the desert together, then that's fine. Then he can return to him in the desert. Now, that seems to be like an obvious statement. If they made the condition, and of course they have to. But what he's saying, that even if the case is where the guy where Reuven says to Shimon, listen, I want to take a walk out into the midbar. will you look after this? Will you look after this object for me?" And Shimon says, "I'm happy to look after it for you, but I'm walking in the same direction as you." So there, if nonetheless Reuben says, "Look, let me give this to you now anyway," then Shimon is entitled to return it to Reuben on the road if he's feeling nervous, and then he doesn't have to take responsibility for it anymore because Reuben knew up front that Shimon was going to. It doesn't have to even be explicitly stated, and that's what we're talking about the almanas lates the midbar, that on condition that I'm also going to the midbar. It's not, so it doesn't explicitly say that I can return it to you in the midbar. He's just saying I'm going to the midbar as well. So that's considered as a tacit acceptance of the condition. Yeah. Zayin, ha'omer lechavero zalticha hilvisicha hifkadti etzli. If he admits to his friend, "I stole from you," or "You lent me money," or "You left me a deposit," and I don't really know and I don't remember if I returned it to you. Okay. So because by the force of his own words, he's creating the debt. And once a person is modir to a debt, it's like 100 witnesses against him. So now, as soon as so that's now the debt is there, and now he's not sure if he's paid it back. So he's chayav to pay back because the tovea can say a tanis bari. He can say, "For sure, you owe me money," and all he's got is a shema to say, "I think I paid you back, but I'm not sure." Okay. So therefore, the suffix can't remove the bala, and he has to pay. Okay. Let me just see. Hold on. Dim. Okay, so this, however, Kazi points out that if it isn't a case where we've got the bari where the toyin says, "I lent you money," and he says, "Yeah, you lent me money, but I think I paid you back." So that's where the toyin comes and says, "I know I lent you the money," and then he would be chayav to pay back. However, if everything is mitzad the borrower, he says, "I borrowed money from you," and he says, "Really? I didn't remember that. But I don't remember I paid you back." And so I don't remember you paid me back either. So now at that point, the Toyin can't force the money out of him based on, because he didn't even remember it. It was all Alpi the Nitzan. But Midine Adam, he cannot be forced to pay back. Midine Shemayim, since he's being a from Jew and he wants to an Ehrlich Jew, he must pay back. He must get out of using from. He's Ehrlich. So, from used to be an insult, by the way. So an Ehrlich Jew would go and pay back, even though it can't be forced by Beis Din. Okay. אבל אם אמר לו, "איני יודע אם גזלתיך, אם הלבסיך, אם הפקדת אצלי, פטור מלשלם." So Reuben comes to the time and says, "Shimon, you owe me money. I lent you money." And Reuben and Shimon says, "I don't remember anything about that. I mean, it's possible, but I don't remember that." Okay, so he's not denying it straight out. If he was denying it straight out, for sure he would not have to pay. But okay, but if he's not sure, so what he has to do is he has to he's going so he doesn't. It's true that he doesn't have to pay, but he has to take a shavua that he's telling the truth that he doesn't know, because right, because in any nitzan could come up like he doesn't want to deny it to the lender's face, that he said, "No, no, you don't," because that, remember, we're going to see later the modem miktas. If someone says, I lent you 200," he says, only 100. I only owe you 100. So that's called the modem miktas. And we said that over there that somebody, why does he have to take the shavua as opposed to someone who denies it outright? Because somebody borrowed something, has got a bit of busha. He doesn't want to be kofet completely. He only has the 100 available now, and he's really intending to give it back later, but he's trying to push off his credit for a little bit. So the same thing over here is that if somebody denies it outright, he doesn't have to take a shvua. But if somebody says, "I don't remember if you did," it could be the same as the same sort of psychology as a modib miktas, I don't have the money right now. I'm intending to pay you back, but in the meantime, I'm saying I'm just not sure. Did I actually borrow it from you? And there he has to take a shvur that he really doesn't know. Okay, and in this case again, if he's only pater midinei adam, but if he wants to be an er lechayid, he should still repay. Okay, Mishna Ches hagonev tale min ha'ede v'hechziro. Okay, interesting case over here. Somebody stole a lamb from the flock. Okay, and he returned it. Now this is an interesting Mishnah because you have different interpretations of whether the owner of the flock noticed that the lamb was missing in this case. Okay. But let's start out by saying that the owner didn't know.
Okay.
He didn't know that it was stolen, and now the thief puts it back, and now mace unignav, and it was and it died or it was stolen, and this very same lamb that he returned to the flock after doing teshuvah, but he didn't re-inform the owner, and now it gets lost. The thief is the one who's responsible. Okay. Oh, beg your pardon. This is Hechziro must be talking about where he sorry. The owner knew. The owner in the first case, the owner realized that the lamb had been stolen. And the thief came and he puts out like a reward for whoever stole my sheep, and the thief as charata, and he comes and returns it on the quiet. And then but the lamb gets stolen or lost after that. So now the thief is still chayav. Okay, why is that? Because the owner didn't know to look out for this lamb. So he counted his flock and whatever, and the lamb wasn't there, so he just wasn't taking care of it. And therefore, as soon as it's in order to properly return the lamb to its owner, he has to inform the owner. Maybe if he's embarrassed to go up and say, "Look, I'm sorry, I stole your lamb. Here it is." He might sort of just give him a knock on the door and leave a note and say, "Your lamb's back." Okay, and that would probably qualify as having notified him that it's back, and now he knows that he needs to look after it. If he didn't know either way, so the owner had no idea that the lamb was gone, he didn't know that it came back. And he counted his flock and found that it was a full flock. Pater. So now the owner, the thief has lost he doesn't have the responsibility anymore, and now if the lamb gets lost, he is nonetheless pater. Now, why does it? I just suddenly realized that he counted the flock. Why is that necessary? How? Okay, so look, there's a lot of parish on what the case is, which I'm not going to go too deep into. I think we can leave it in the simple case where as long as the owner is aware of the fact that that he's got a full flock, then he knows to look out for the lamb. There's another aspect which needs to be, which is what the Farshim go into, is the fact that once the lamb has been taken out of the flock and it's used to wandering off, it's now an extra liability, because its horizons have been broadened. So now it's a lot more likely to wander off, and there's a shiloh that maybe the gunner has to inform the owner, you need to take extra care about this lamb because it's liable to wander off. So there is that aspect to the equation as well, which some of them function bring. Okay, let's go back to Chazar.
Okay, we are on Chet Aleph.
Yeah.
If one wounds another, he becomes liable to him for 5 categories: for injury, for pain, for healing, and loss of time, and for disgrace. For injury, how, if he blinded his eye, cut off his hand, or broke his leg, we view him as if he were a slave being sold in the market and appraise how much he was worth and how much he is worth. Pain, if he burned him with a spit or with a nail, even on his fingernail, a place where it does not make a wound, we appraise how much such a man wishes to take to suffer such pain. Healing, if he struck him, he is obligated to heal him. Should blisters arise on him if as a result of the wound, he's liable. If not as a result of the wound, he's exempt. If he healed and then relapsed, he is liable to heal him. If he healed completely, he is not liable to heal him. Loss of time, we view him as though he were a watchman of a cucumber field, since he was already giving him the value of his hand or the value of his foot. Disgrace, all depends upon the status of the one who disgraced and the one who was disgraced. If one disgraces a naked person, disgraces a blind person, disgraces a sleeping person, he is liable. However, if a sleeping person disgraced, he is exempt. If one fell off the roof and injured and disgraced, he is liable for the injury, but exempt for the disgrace. As he said, and he stretches forth her hand, and she takes hold of his privy organs. One is not liable for disgrace unless he has intention. This is the stringency of a man over a bull, that a man pays for injury, pain, healing, loss of time, and disgrace, and he pays the value of the young, whereas the owner of the bull pays only for injury and is exempt from the value of the young. If one strikes his father or his mother, or does not, but it does not inflict a wound upon them, or if one wounds another on Yom Kippur, he is liable for all of them. If one wounds a Jewish bondsman, he is liable for all of them except for loss of time when it is his. If one wounds a Gentile slave belonging to others, he is liable for all of them. Rabbi Yehuda says slaves have no indemnity for disgrace.
Okay.
Kedushin. Okay, Aleph Chet. The rites of smicha, weaving, bringing clothes, kamitza, burning, melika, sprinkling, and receiving pertain to men and not to women, except for the meal offering of a sota or a female Nazarite, in which cases they waive them. Every commandment which is dependent on land applies only in the land. That which is not dependent on land applies both in the land and outside the land, except for Orla and Kalayim. But Eliezer says also Kadash. Whoever fulfills one commandment is benefited. His days are prolonged and he inherits the land. And whoever does not fulfill one commandment is not benefited. His days are not prolonged and he does not inherit the land. Whoever is involved in the study of scripture and Mishna and conducts himself properly will not easily sin, as it is said, a three-ply cord is not easily severed. And whoever is involved neither in the study of scripture nor Mishna and does not conduct himself properly is not part of civilization.
Yeah.
All right. And we go on to Nida. Nadarim. Nadarim. Hey bet. If someone from the street was prohibited by a neder to benefit from one of them, he may not enter the yard. Eliezer ben Yaakov says he may say to him, I am entering now into your partner's property. I am now entering into yours. Someone prohibited by a neder to benefit from another who owns a bathhouse or an olive press, which are leased in the city, if he has an interest in them, he's forbidden. If he does not retain an interest in them, it is permitted. If someone says to another, Konam, your house with respect to my entering it, or your field with respect to my buying it, and he died or sold it to another person, he's permitted. If he said, Konam, this house with respect to my entering, or this field with respect to my buying it, if he died and sold it to another, it is forbidden. If one says, I am to you cherem, the person prohibited by the neder is forbidden. You are to me cherem, the person making the neder is forbidden. I am to you and you are to me, both are forbidden. Both are permitted in something of the pilgrims from Babylon, but are forbidden in something of that city. Okay, Sachem. Dalit. Reb Meir says we may eat chametz the entire 5th hour, but we must burn it at the onset of the 6th hour. Reb Yehuda says we may eat chametz the entire 4th hour, but we suspend it the entire 5th hour and burn it by the onset of the 6th hour. Reb Yehuda also said I have 2 loaves of the Thanksgiving offering which had become unfit, were placed on the roof of the portico. As long as they lay there, all the people would eat chametz. But when one was removed, they suspended. They would neither eat nor burn the chametz, and when both were removed, all the people would begin to burn their chametz. Reb Gamliel says non-consecrated chametz may be eaten the entire 4th hour. Truma, which is chametz, may be eaten the entire 5th, and we must burn all chametz to the onset of the 6th. Rav Kanina, administrator of Kohanim, says in all the days of the Kohanim, never did they refrain from burning sacrificial meat that had been contaminated by a secondary tumah, together with the sacrificial meat that had been contaminated by a primary tumah. Although by doing so, they added contamination to its contamination. Rabbi Akiva added, saying, in all the days of the Kohanim, never did they refrain from lighting oil that had become unfit through contact with till yom, in a lamp that had been contaminated by contaminated by a corpse. Although by doing so, they added contamination to its contamination.
Right. So even though you might have thought it's asset to make it more tamei than it already is, the fact is it's going to be burned anyway.
Right.
So it doesn't actually matter.
We are in Nidit with Vayim Gimel. Every object that contracts treading tumah contracts corpse tumah, but there can be an object that contracts corpse tumah that does not contract treading tumah. Everyone who is eligible to judge capital cases is eligible to judge monetary cases, but there can be someone who is eligible to judge monetary cases, but is not eligible to judge capital cases. Everyone who is fit to judge to testify, but there can be someone who is fit to testify but is not fit to judge. Every food that is subject to tithes contracts food tumah, but there can be a food that contracts food tumah that is not subject to tithes.
Well, yeah.
And
that's it. Yeah, that's three.
And every growth that is subject to
no, that's it. We've done three. They're short Mishnas over here. We're talking about Venn diagrams that are concentric circles.
Pikoros. Tess. If one suspended of selling truma as ordinary produce, we may not purchase from him even water or salt. And these are the words of Rabbi Yehuda. Rabbi Shimon says, whatever has a connection to truma and maisa may not purchase from him. One who is suspected of sabbatical year violations is not suspected of transgression of the laws of maisa. One who is suspected of maisa violations is not suspected of sabbatical year violations. And one who is suspected of both these violations is suspected of transgressing the laws of tahara. But in some cases, one who is suspected of tahara in violations is not subject to violating this one or that one. This is the rule. Whoever is suspected of something may neither judge nor testify concerning it.
Interesting. We're talking about Venn diagrams, and here's another Venn diagram where there is actually an intersection. But we see that the common thing is that if somebody's suspected of violations of d'oraisas, then we think for sure that they're going to be violating d'rabbanan. So if somebody's just violating a d'rabbanan, we don't necessarily suspect that he's also over on d'oraisas.
Hey, all disqualified offerings may be sold in the market, slaughtered in the market, and weighed by the lita, with the exception of the Bikor and the Maisa offering, because their advantage falls to the owner. With disqualified offerings, however, their advantage falls to the holy estate, and a portion may be weighed against a portion in the case of a Bikor.
Okay.
Let's go to you.
Okay.
Okay, so see you tomorrow. Have a great day.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye.